Hi, I'm Bill Lancaster, and I'll be your host for this video on rainbow poplar and turning rainbow poplar. Just a word about poplar in general. Poplar is a very common wood here in South Carolina. Every hardwood forest you go into has got lots of poplars, lots of oaks. There's some good things and some bad things about poplar for turning. And the good thing is it's fairly soft even when it's dry. It's easy to turn. It's a kind of a great wood for beginners. It doesn't cost very much, so poplar is good in a lot of ways. The bad things about poplar is it doesn't have any personality in its grain. So if you're going to do any painting or embellishing, poplar is great because you can make it look really, really nice if you just do a little painting on it or embellishing or burning. So those are good things you can do with poplar. And it's easy to turn, so do what you want to with it. But rainbow poplar is a different thing altogether. This is rainbow poplar, and my friends at the Gouge place down in Donald, South Carolina, have wrapped this in plastic for me, kitchen wrap, so I don't have to have the wax on it. Wax will make your concrete floor as slick as ice, as I have said before, so be sure to get the wax off of it before you turn this thing on the lathe. But this has got a nice kitchen wrap on it. I'm going to take this off so you can see the wood better. This is, you see how dark that is? It's like it's as dark as walnut or even darker. It's a really black wood. It's got some nice color in it, and my friends at Gouge have given me a really, really good piece of the stuff so I can turn something pretty out of this. I really like what I've got here in my hands, but this is very wet. It's heavy. It's about 38% moisture. I've measured it with this little moisture meter. A friend gave me this. He probably got it at Harbor Freight. It's a little meter. You stick it on your wood, both of the electrodes, and push a button, and it will give you a reading of the moisture content. This is about 38% moist. That's pretty darn wet. You want to have this around 12 or under to be considered dry. So it's going to be considered wet wood. I'm going to have to turn it twice. And the standard way for turning something this wet twice is you turn it rough, and you leave the thickness of the walls of your bowl at 10% of the diameter. So this is an 8-inch diameter bow blank, so my wall should be a little over 3/4 of an inch, and then you put that into a paper bag, not plastic, paper bag with its own shavings. You want the moist shavings in with it. You just bury it in its moist shavings and leave it for 5 months or 6 months, and it'll dry out slowly. The idea is to keep it from cracking. So it is going to warp on you, and you can't help that. But hopefully it will not crack. That's what your goal is. And when you do that, make sure that you mark the center point on the tenon with a live center, so you can know exactly where to come back to after it's all warped and changed its shape. There's another way to do this that will make it shorter that my friend Jim Kilton has come up with, and that is to use a desiccant. A desiccant is a kind of a powdery granular substance that will draw moisture out of things. When you buy a bottle of pills, sometimes you'll have a little thing of desiccant in there, a little plastic capsule, and it will keep those pills dry. So this is what this is, but what I've got is like a 5-gallon bucket with some desiccant, and Jim Kilton found a source for this stuff. So I haven't tried it. Others have used this and had great success with it. So that will shorten the drying period to 5 days. 5 months down to 5 days. Really amazing what it can do and still not crack the wood. So what I'm going to do today is turn this on, rough turn it so you can see what it's going to look like, and with this rainbow poplar, and then we're going to dry it and go from there. So let me first turn it, and I think I've told you before, I like to turn between centers and put put a tenon on both sides, so I'm going to do that. I need to decide which is going to be the top and which is going to be the bottom. I think, see this light grain here? I'm going to let that be on the bottom, so it's going to be turned away. I'm going to have all dark in this finished product. So if that's going to be the bottom, I'm going to make that I'm going to make the other side the first one that I turn. So I'm going to turn this thing. I'm going to just adjust this so you can see the lathe better. What I'm doing, I've got a microphone boom to adjust here to change the position of the camera, and I hope that will give you a good view of things. Let's get that still. Now, okay. Now let me get the live center going here. I'll be right back. Now, we said this is going to be the bottom, so I'm going to let that be the second thing that I turn. I've marked the centers here with a little punch, so put that in my center. Bring the live center up behind it. Oops. Let me try that again. Put that in the center point. Bring the live center up. You want to make sure that your live center is seated in its Morse taper, and I'm putting that right smack dab in the center like that. Now, I'm not sure you can see this very well. I'm going to change this camera position where you need to be able to see the cuts. That's what you need to be able to see. Let me just change this a bit. Sorry to be moving this thing around on you so much. I know that's annoying. See if I can just turn this thing down a little bit and get a better picture of the front of this thing. And hopefully that won't be in my way. I think maybe that's going to do it. I'll get my face shield on and make sure that the tailstock is tight. Good. First I'm going to do is turn off the bottom of this thing to make it good and flat. I'm going to, I need a little more room between the tailstock and the wood so I can get this this tool rest in properly. So what I'm going to do is loosen up on the lock on the ways. I'm just going to run the quill out. That'll give me more space between the tailstock. My phone's ringing. And the, never mind. You just can't plan these things ahead, can you? Okay. Get rid of this thing. It's right. Ah, shoot. Okay, don't need that. Okay, here we go. Now, see that thing gives me a little more room so I can get this tool rest in there straight. Now I'm going to take my 40/40 gouge, which I love to do on the bottom, get this thing going as fast as I can go and not have it be unbalanced. So let's see how fast we can go. Face shield down, turn it down to 0. Now up to speed. And let's go see if we can go back somewhere over 600. The lathe is not shaking, so I'm good so far. There's 600. Now I'm going to start turning the bottom off flat. Using the side, you see this is, if that's wide open, that's closed. I'm going to put about 90 degrees and use this left corner, just that left corner of the tip to cut this. Oh yeah, just cutting so nicely. It's wet wood, it's soft, it's just turning beautifully, it's dark. Make that smooth. Now, let's see what we got here. Some more light on the subject. There we go. Now, you can see some of the colors already showing up in this wood Isn't that nice though? Okay, now I want to put a tenon on this side, which will be the eventual top of my bow. So I'm going to, not sure a pencil is going to show up on this. I'm going to have to get some sort of a thing to make a mark. Let's try the awl. Okay, now what I want is I want eventually about a 2.5 inch tenon. It's going to become my base. So that means that the radius of that's going to be 1.25. So there's about 1.25 right there. Now I can make a mark with this thing. Well, it's just that's not doing very well. This wood is so. I'm going to have to try to do this thing with without marking it. Lower that a little bit for the parting tool. Position the parting tool right where it needs to go, right there. And then we'll start the lathe. So that gives me a little bit of a, that's about the right depth. Now I need to widen that thing out some. Now I'm going to take my little skew. I'm going to go right in there, raise this for the skew. Look at the textures inside that wood. I'm going to, that's not the skew. Get the skew, I'm going to go right in here to make a little dovetail side to that and flatten the bottom. Let's see if I've got it now. That's pretty good. I'll flatten that bottom a bit better. Not quite. That may have it now. Let's see. That looks pretty good. I think I can live with that. Now we're going to put a chuck on this lathe, and then we're going to put this tenon in the chuck. So hang on while we do the little maneuver here. Take this off. It's interesting how the outside of that wood is so dark and the inside has a variation in the grain, kind of like ambrosia maple. So we take the knockout bar, and when you do the knockout bar, you know, you don't grab it on the end, it'll punch you right into your finger. Just grab it on the side, pop it right out like that. Never take your hand off of the knockout bar, put it right back on, and we get a chuck. This is a Vic Mark 120. I like Vic Marks because they turn so truly. So I want that thing on, spin. Now put the tenon here in the chuck. Where's my, put your thumb on the center, turn it right in, and turn tight. So I want all 4 screws turned in tight. There are only 2, but you do them twice, as I have said before. So there we go. Get those turned in tight. Let's see how smoothly it's going to turn. Put the face shield back on. I think maybe you're too close. I'm going to move you back a little bit. Now, whenever you're turning, just practice your bevel cuts as you go. This is just wet wood. It's going to be turned again later, but you know, while you're at it, why not? Just practice doing good, smooth, long bevel cuts to try to just learn how to do that. So we're going to do this in a second. I'm going to flatten off the bottom, put another tenon on the bottom, or at least mark one if I can. And then we're going to start turning the bowl into a bowl shape. I'm taking out the live center on the tailstock. I don't want it in here. It'll jab my elbow. Let's get rid of that. Okay. Now I'm going to move my tools in. Take this tailstock back. Now, flatten off the bottom. Always turn it by hand to make sure it's not hitting anything first, and then we're going to turn it on. It should be about 600 again. Turn this thing flat using the 40/40. That stuff is just buttermilk smooth. It's so amazing. The faster you turn, the less you get these little rings in it. See those little rings? I'm just going at 600 or so, but if I were going at twice that speed, or about 1,000, I wouldn't be getting those little rings in it. So I need to try to mark a tenon, even though this is very dark wood. So I want it to be about 2.5, so I'm going to mark it at 1 1/4, right about there. I don't know if I can even see that. I can barely see it. Okay, and we're going to just cut that where I can know where it's going to be. Lower the tool rest a little bit because why? Because the parting tool is wider. That's why. We want to go right there. Okay. The parting tool, I've always just kind of stuck it straight in there to do this kind of work, but it has a bevel. And I was looking at a video the other day that was a demonstrator that showed how that bevel works. It's just like every other bevel. So there's a bevel on this thing. And if you turn it upward and catch that bevel, then you have a different sort of cut. Now I'm going to just take that a little bit deeper, all the way across. Yeah, like that. Now let's flatten that out with the skew. Now for the skew, got to raise the tool rest. It's going to go in flat. So I want it to go in just like this, and I put a little dovetail on that and flatten out the bottom like so. You must not make this tenon so tall that this will bottom out in your chuck. You do not want that bottoming out. The jaws hit right there. And that's where they have to touch your wood to kind of put some friction against it to make it grip. And if you go in there too deep and it bottoms out, this thing will not turn true. So you want it to turn true. Now, I'm going to swap off to a different tool rest. I've got a a good curved one-way tool rest. And you don't have to have this, but it kind of helps to do this. Get the right height for it. Get it in there pretty close. Now, turn it by hand, make sure it's okay. Yep, good. Now, what we're going to do, gotta move some stuff out of the way here that you don't see. And I'm just going to be doing this little number. This is wide open. That's closed. Going at about 10 o'clock, and you'll learn as you do this thing how much of an angle to open it and how much of an angle to drop the handle down or up. And it's going to start chewing across there and swinging with it. You've got to swing or you're going to get a straight line like a flower pot. So I've got this chisel against my side. I'm coming in, I'm going to start cutting and slowly swinging. And then I'm going to have to take it all the way down to the depth of the groove right there, you see. And if we turn, it's going to become round. So let's get it going. I'm going to see if I can get it going a little bit faster. That's at 750. I'm just going to start nibbling off that corner. As you do this, you can practice your bevel cuts. It's a good opportunity. So I'm going up and I'm swinging. I'm going in and I'm swinging with it to make a little curve. That is so pretty. Now let's just look at it. You'll see what I mean. See what a nice smooth surface that is? That's, you know, you can sand that, but maybe start at 220 or something. It's really quite nice. Now, that's really very wet stuff. So I'm going to keep going with it. Let's move the tool rest in. Good, Bill. Just drop my chisel. Fortunately, I hit the butt and not the point. So let's see if we can. This thing's going to be okay. Yep, sorry. Okay, here we go. Try to turn fast. I'm going up to it's almost 900. Okay, here we go. Push down on the tool rest, in with the right arm, and push in and swing. Again, down on the tool rest, in with the right arm, and swing. I'm cutting up more than 1/8 of an inch. That's too deep to give me a nice smooth cut without any tear out. When I get toward the end, I'm going to get tear out with that deeper cut. So I'm going to have to shorten that cut, reduce the depth of it to maybe just a 32nd of an inch. It's very, very shallow, 1/16 of an inch maybe. So there we go. Slowly supporting. I got an unsupported edge there at the end. Now let's look at it. We've got a long way to go, but there you can see. See that moisture coming out of it? It's really, really wet. And you see this rainbow poplar. This is an amazing stuff. This wood, rainbow poplar. Now, move that in a little bit more. This curve here, I can make a little bit better by taking this down, and I'm going to use a regular fingernail grind gouge on that. Let me get it. This is just a regular fingernail grind, and so I'm going to kind of take this thing down to using just that left corner again, swing it around, just to make this a different kind of curve. I've got to go down to the depth of that tenon, I know. You don't see the profile of this thing, but it's looking pretty good. I've got to go down deeper. I can go in this way on it too if I want to. Let's do another one of those. You have to learn how to like your shapes and make shapes that you like. That's what it's all about, making pleasing, beautiful things that people want to use. And I like to make things that are both functional and I hope beautiful, so we try to do those things. I'm just rough turning this thing. I have to remember that I'm not really finishing turning this thing, I'm just rough turning it. So we're going to be putting it into a desiccant to dry it. I'm trying to get that thing at least smooth. I can see the profile of it. Not really crazy about that. The different cuts give me different surfaces. So you see when I did that sort of scraping cut with the fingernail gabs, I got this sort of surface on it. You may not be able to see that very well, but I can kind of have a different darker surface up here, which I did with the 4040. A little fuzz coming off of it. Interesting wood. Interesting wood. Interesting wood. But that's pretty good. That's good enough for rough cutting. Now, what I'm going to do is just kind of touch this top from this point so that I can flatten it out and see what I'm dealing with on the top. I'm going to use the 4040 for this. I'm going to step back over here, come in on the other side of the tool, make sure I'm just using the corner. Just take that down. That will let me know where the top of this bowl is going to be, because it may not be exactly flat. So that's good for rough turning. Now let's take this thing down. And take it out of the chuck. Turn it around. Thumb in the center, tighten it up. Okay, tighten all four. There, okay, now that's pretty good. Okay, now we're going to do the, take out the center. We'll back you up a little bit so I can get to the center part here. Get my Forstner bit. Have a great, see this Forstner bit? This is a Forstner bit mounted in a Jacob's chuck. This is the Freud brand. It's great. It will really do the job. I've got little marks along here, so I'm going to hold this chuck up to see how deep I'm going to go. Remember, you can always take out more wood. You can't put it back. So I'm going to take it down to just about the depth of the red part there. I'm going to quit at that point. And that will let me have about the right amount to take out. And let's see. Now I tell you what, that's too far. I need to leave a 10% of the diameter as the rim and the bottom. So that means that if this is an 8-inch bowl, it's going to be about a little over 3/4 of an inch. So I need to come out to 3/4 of an inch, and so it's right there. For that line right there. So let me do this number. sure it's seated. It is. Okay, now right to there. Turning at 400 RPM or thereabouts. It doesn't have to be exact. That's like 365. So I'm going to go in. You make sure that you don't get this forcer bit stuck inside the bowl. I'm going into the depth of the drill, out, clear it, lubricate it. This is paraffin. Lubricate it, in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, clear, and lubricate. That's the process. If you get too many of those chips behind the forcer bit inside the bowl, you will get it stuck. I'm almost to the right depth. I'm going to take one more pass and looking across my bowl here to the right depth. That's it. Out. Stop. Okay, now get rid of the Forstner bit. Now, I've got a robust J-shaped tool rest. It's this. This is a 14-inch. It'll be good for going inside bowls. I have to remember as I do this, I'm not doing this as I'm going to finish it. I'm only going over to leaving a 10% on the side here. So I'm going to make a cut where it's going to show me about where I'm going to be. So if this is 8 inches, a little over 3/4, I'm going to go about that deep. Let's see how close I came. 3/4. Well, amazingly enough, I got that right. Now, back this up. I want my David Ellsworth signature gouge for the center, and I just really like this gouge. It's my favorite. It has a long swept back side on it. It's just a lovely thing, and you can do everything with this, really. You don't need a bottom feeder if you have one of these. It's kind of amazing what it can do. I've got to move some stuff out of the way, excuse me. Keep moving stuff around. Now, let's try this, and I'm going to go like this, pointing this is the bevel. It's going to cut in that direction. So go in, swing, and I'm opening it up as I go in, like that. I take out all the center part, which makes it so much easier to do this next thing. I'm going to run this thing at about, 800 or 900. I can feel water slinging off of it. It's probably slinging up onto the camera, I don't know. Open it up, swing, back out here to that's a big bite, so I'm opening it up to cut it better. That's fine. You can see the bottom down there, so we've got to watch out to not go beyond the bottom. You want to be Look at the color in that wood. Rainbow Poplar. So maybe you can buy some from Gotwood down at, they have a website called Turning Blanks. But if you just Google Gotwood, you'll get to them. Good folks down there. They produce all the turning blanks for upstate South Carolina and some other areas. They do a lot of stuff, and they can give you kiln dried. They can give you wet stuff. My last couple of turns here. How's that feel, having that stuff coming right at your camera? Now, let's see here. I want to go, I'm going to sight down the side of the bow to get to point the bevel in the right direction. I'll take one more turn down, going toward that and around. I'm not at the bottom yet. I'm going to take a little more wood off to get down to the bottom and take a little bit more right in here. But I suspect it's going to be a little too fat. I'm going to get over here and open that gouge up. This is the David Ellsworth method. This is really not a beginner's method, because I'll tell you something, folks. I want to show you this to you again because it's so important. I'm going in like this, but you're going to be tempted to turn the gouge open like this and do the inside of that rim. If you do that, and if you catch this wide part of the fingernail, it's going to catch, it's going to shatter that bowl into pieces, and you'll have it flying all over the place, and you're going to be in a mess. So just don't do that. Just do not do. You see this? What it move? Can you see this thing? Don't do that move right there. That's what's going to cause your catch and your shattering. You can go in like this, but that's it. And if you when you're doing your final rim, do it before you get down very deep. Leave some of the wood in here, because if this starts to vibrate, it will give you chatter marks, and they'll be hard to get out. So you don't want chatter marks. A chatter mark is caused by when the bowl vibrates in, your gouge cuts. When it vibrates out, your gouge doesn't cut. So it makes a little pattern of marks around the side, evenly spaced, that are caused by the vibration. Now, what we're going to do is take this out and put it in Desiccant. I haven't got the Desiccant over here, but I'm going to do another video on Desiccant, and you'll see what that's all about. So that's it for today. And I just wanted to, well, look at all the shavings on the camera. So that's it for the day. I want to show you that Rainbow Poplar mainly for this video. So I hope you've learned something by seeing the Rainbow Poplar. It's an interesting wood and not one very common, but they had some down at Gotwood, so I got a piece of it, and I think I'm going to be pleased with that. It's really going to be interesting to see how that turns out. When it's dry, it's going to be lighter, I'm sure, and so we'll see in about 5 days how it comes out, and we can make this bowl into a very nice little bowl. It'll be dry and it'll be nice and smooth, and it's so wet. I've probably got moisture all over the camera lens. It's really, you can see how wet this stuff is. It's really wet. So there we are. So I hope you learned something from this, and we'll see you next time. Bye. Wow, chips everywhere.